told you, the IndyCar lads had just raced in Portland, and Al Unser Jr. was crowned the champion of the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200. But shortly after the race, controversy reigned supreme. Al Unser Jr., who had dominated the race, was disqualified for a ground clearance violation.
We found that the car was out of tolerance. The 2-inch rule found the car to be significantly deficient in that measurement.
And that left Jimmy Vasser as the winner.
It's not the way I wanted to win my first race.
Team Penske immediately protested, and we now await IndyCar's decision. With 2 straight wins by young Americans, can another American continue the streak by leaving all others in the dust at Road America? Moraine of Wisconsin, just inland from Lake Michigan at the magnificent Road America circuit at Elkhart, Lake Wisconsin. The IndyCars are ready for the Texaco Haviland 200. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page, and as you saw when we left you a couple of weeks ago, we thought we told you who the winner was, but after the technical inspection, they disqualified Al Unser Jr. and declared Jimmy Vasser the winner, and then immediately a protest was filed by Penske Racing. That has yet to be acted on, and because we're going 4 weeks straight in a row with racing, it probably won't be acted on for some time. So here's the man, Al Unser Jr. That's going to leave a lot of points up in the air, and you have to drive a race here this weekend. Is it something you can put out of your mind?
Oh, for sure, Paul. It's something that, you know, we can't do nothing about it. We went out, we drove our heart out, and after the race, the technical guys said what they said. And so, you know, there's nothing I can do except go out here today and try to make up for those 20 points that seem to be up in the air at this point.
But you're a class act. As soon as he heard about it, one of the first to hear, you went over and congratulated Jimmy Vasser on the win.
Oh, you bet. You know, there's nothing really we can do about it. Jimmy drove a great race and all that, and I congratulated him on it. You know, when I won my first oval at Milwaukee, it was because Michael Andretti ran out of fuel, and so, you know, that's the way racing goes sometimes.
Well, good luck today, Al. Now, the guy that won that race, Jimmy Vasser, he's with Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, we feel like we ought to have a victory celebration down here. We need photographers, we need champagne, we need the hats, we need the hardware. Jimmy Vasser, you were deprived of going through the emotion of all of that in your first IndyCar win. Yeah. Was it a major disappointment?
Well, no, I wasn't. I was happy to have had a good race and finish second for the team and getting the points that we did. And you know, I wasn't elated to get the news that we had won the race in that fashion. So I felt bad for Al, but it's good that we did get the win for our sponsors, Target and SDP, and our team. We ran good. We were in a position to take advantage of something like that, and you know, and that's good. But you know, we want to win the proper way, coming across the line with our fists in the air.
And we want to see that happen, of course, and we know it will. The key to getting it done here today on this very demanding circuit that race drivers just seemingly love.
Yeah, it's very, very, very fast here, and it's a permanent road course, beautiful, and it is demanding, and it's going to be tough on fuel. So it's going to be a very, very interesting race, and again, you got to be there in the end and be up in front to take advantage of situations that might happen towards the end of the race.
Let's check in now with Jan Beekes.
Gary, the man who sits on the pole today is Jacques Villeneuve. Of course, he got his first IndyCar victory here last year. Jacques, obviously, you love this racetrack. Is this the kind of racetrack, the style of which you like the best?
Yeah, this is the type of track I like the best. All those road courses, it's like the track used to be 20, 30 years ago, and it's a lot of fun.
Tell me, you're running your car with very little wing, and it seems as though it's heating up today. Is that a concern for you?
The cooler, the better it is for us because of the low downforce side of our setup. But, you know, it worked last year, and there's no reason it shouldn't work this year.
Now, you were driving the wheels off that car, getting the pole position, got it in the very final lap. Can you drive it that hard in the race?
No, those aren't laps you can do in the race. First of all, the tires wouldn't last, and you yourself probably would end up making a big mistake at one point. So, no, that's just the type of driving you can do once in a while in qualifying to get that extra special lap. But you need a good setup in the race, and you need to drive within the limits.
He's the man who starts inside row one. The man who starts next to him is with Gary Gerald.
Well, Jan, right here in this front row is a guy that was a tremendous last-second surprise. Gilles de Ferran, you come up with your best qualifying effort in your rookie season. I know you've got to be elated with that run, but were you disappointed that you didn't have the honor of the pole position?
To be very honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed because I knew it was the last lap. I came out here in the SP1. I was sure we had it. We ran out of fuel on the last lap, and we were out of touch on the radio. And when I came back, they told me that Villeneuve got me by 300ths of a second. So I'm happy to be on the front row, but I was a little disappointed yesterday.
The key to winning today for the first time in your IndyCar series?
I don't know. As you said, it's my first time, but we're going to try to have a good start and try hard the whole afternoon and hopefully come out with a good finish.
Refreshedly candid, ready to go from the front row. Let's go back to Jan.
Gary, as you can see from the crutches, the man who's been on pole here the last 3 years, Paul Tracy, not today. Paul, in your qualifying run, you've broken your foot in a go-kart accident. Did that hold you back, or was there another problem?
No, we had some problems with the car, and the handling went bad, and we had a lot of brake trouble. So it's, it was a frustrating session, but we've got some problems with the foot today.
Tell me about the foot. You have a plate, you have 5 screws. Will be a problem over this duration of the race?
Well, it was pretty sore all weekend, but we replaced the stitches this morning with Dr. Trammell, and obviously it was very painful. In morning warm-up, I stalled 3 or 4 times just trying to get out of the pits. So it's definitely hurting now since we changed the stitches. They were starting to burst open a little. So it's it's going to be a tough race, but hopefully we can just get in and out nice and carefully and then have a good result.
Paul Tracy, no stranger to driving hurt.
There is one other question about Paul Tracy. There is an option in his contract that Roger Penske may be, in fact, able to exercise by the middle of August that would return Paul Tracy to Penske Racing for next year. So we're not quite sure where he's going to be. One other piece of business from 2 weeks ago. Remember on the closing lap, running in 4th place was Stefan Johansson with Michael Andretti following him, and then it looked like Michael center punched Johansson off of the last corner. What in fact happened there was Johansson was running out of fuel, his engine stuttered, and Michael had absolutely nowhere to go but to run into the back of Johansson. No animosity from either driver on that situation. It was a racing deal. The 40th anniversary of Road America. We'll be back with more in just a moment. His car for the command to start engines. During this week, the Indy Racing League made several announcements. Included among those was that 25 positions of next year's Indianapolis 500 would be reserved for IRL participants. Since these guys are potentially involved, we asked them for their reaction.
I think we're very disappointed by the release. I mean, certainly what it means is that the tradition of qualifying for the Indy 500 has been changed beyond all recognition. Effectively now, to qualify for the 500, you have to take part in 2 races and go to Indianapolis for the month of May. We regard that as unreasonable.
The qualifying format, I feel, is wrong because it should be the fastest guys in the field, not just guaranteed runners. So it's obviously a frustrating situation to be in.
They're not providing a level playing field, if you will, for next year's race because they're totally changing what's been, in my opinion, has been sacred at Indianapolis as far as the qualifying format, which is very special. And to go out there and say only IRL competitors have the preference, or to have guaranteed 25 spots, I think it's rather ludicrous. I think it would take away a lot from the event itself.
I sincerely hope that both parties can find a compromise because they both have so much to offer, but the Indy 500 is the crown jewel.
Pretty much so all along we had no intention of going to Disney World or Phoenix for that matter, so I guess that we'd have to be one of those 8 under the current rules, and I'm not sure I don't think any team would really want to risk that situation. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said yet, and hopefully, as I said many times, hopefully reason will prevail.
So obviously, we're going to be hearing a lot more on that story in the months to come. Now, the Indy cars have just pulled away, and Derek Daly, this could be a critical race in the championship.
Well, we're at a critical time in the championship because of these 4 race weekends in a row. It's not been since 1978 that IndyCar have had to race 4 weekends in a row, and 2 of those races at that time were in England. But remember, these crews prepare essentially the same cars. Now, during that 4 weekends, there are 7 drivers with a realistic chance of winning the championship. I believe the driver in the next 4 weeks who shows a turn of speed, speed, reliability, consistency, and maybe even composure could well end up being our champion. Now, Firestone almost became a big story here on Friday when Scott Pruitt had the provisional pole. He didn't hold it for Saturday, but you know, they get closer and closer to that pole of that race win. And this morning, Scott Pruitt was second fastest on full tanks in the warm-up, so they may be race potential winners. Gary Gerald?
You talk about how this busy stretch of the schedule is here. Those weekends off are very precious, and for most of the drivers, a weekend off is a chance to go home. And for Christian Fittipaldi, that means going back to his native Brazil. He took one of our cameras with him last weekend, and he's going to share with us right now a glimpse of the Christian Fittipaldi lifestyle.
Check this out. Hard work deserves some play.
When I'm back in Brazil, we always go to the farm. We try to fill the airplane with lots of young people, so then we can have lots of fun, relax there, and have a very good time. This is the waterfall next to my farm. That's Christian doing his crazy thing. Here in the farm, there are lovely places to go riding the bike.
It takes about an hour and a half from my farm to come over here. And I tell you, this, for me, is the best place on earth. Now, we just arrived at another waterfall. As you can see, it's very, very high.
Jumping off the huge waterfall is only for the crazy guys, as I'm a little bit more responsible. After running the whole day, then the first thing I do is I shower. And now I'm ready to go racing again.
Well, there I think you get a real good reason why Christian Fittipaldi is fast becoming one of the real favorites on this circuit. He just oozes charisma and, oh, for that youthful enthusiasm. We're getting close to a green flag here at Road America at Elkhart Lake. Stay with us. We've got great racing coming up.
Back at Road America, celebrating its 40th anniversary as the cars now begin the pace lap. Still 4 miles to go. 24 of these cars qualified under last year's track record. On the pole is Jacques Villeneuve. He broke the track record himself by the widest margin ever at Road America, over 5 seconds. Alongside Gilles de Ferran, the best starting position for this first-year driver. Row 2 is Michael Andretti, a 2-time winner here, still looking for his first win of 95. And Raul Boesel, coming off the best finish of the season, a 4th at Portland. In row 3, it's Al Unser Jr. He celebrated his IndyCar championship at this very track last year. Alongside is Bobby Rahal, the 3-time champion, hopes to end a 42-race winless streak. In row 4, it's Scott Pruitt, Friday's provisional pole sitter who didn't improve very much on Saturday. Alongside is Teo Fabi. In the 5th row is Christian Fittipaldi. A late race spin at Portland ended a great run for the rookie. And Brian Herta, who hopes today will bring his 3rd finish of the year. In the 6th row is Paul Tracy, the 1993 winner here. And Andre Ribeiro. Row 7, Parker Johnstone. This is the best start of his career. And Jimmy Vasser with the worst start of the year for the winner at Portland. In the 8th row, Adrian Fernandez with 4 top 10 finishes in the last 5 races. And Robbie Gordon with 2 wins this season has Robbie just 1 point out of the points lead. In row 9, Stefan Johansson and Mauricio Gugelmin. The 10th row, Danny Sullivan and Eliseo Salazar. Row 11, Emerson Fittipaldi and Eddie Cheever. Row 12, Alessandro Zampedri and Marco Greco. The 13th row, Eric Bachelard and Hiro Matsushita. And the 14th row, rookie Hubert Stromberger and Carlos Guerrero. So that's the way they'll line up here. 4 miles, 11 turns, 50 laps. You have to have the pit stops absolutely dead on. The first fuel stop at lap number 16. Because of the length of the course, everything is so critical here as to getting in the pits right on time, because you'll never make it around another lap. In the Nations Cup, well, there's the way the point standings are right now, with the United States still in the lead, but Canada closing in, and Brazil very definitely with a chance as well. Manufacturers Championship also being contested here this weekend, with Ford Cosworth out in front of Mercedes-Benz, 172 to 140. And in today's field, the chassis, the engines, the tire breakdown should make for one terrific race. And this circuit is so well known by so many club racers who have raced here over 40 years, Derek.
Undoubtedly one of the finest road racing facilities in North America. 200 miles an hour down these long front straights. And here's the key passing zones marked in red. Down at turn 1, down at turn 5, the slowest corner on the racetrack, down at turn 8, and then the Canada corner where we've seen so much action in the past. All resurfaced, and this year faster than ever.
Let's go to Jan Beekes, pit side.
Paul, a quick update on Robbie Gordon. They went to fire up that car before the race. It would not fire. They switched quickly to the spare car. Robbie Gordon, who's starting 16th, already had a tough weekend. It just got tougher. It turns out electrical problems on his primary car.
Man that doesn't seem to have much luck in the past couple of races, so we'll definitely keep an eye on Robbie Gordon. Gary Gerald?
Well, Paul, a quick update on Jacques Villeneuve as we anticipate green. There are concerns. He had problems with a sensor in the shifting mechanism this morning, got only 2 laps. They don't know if they've got the problem cured. They're about to find out.
All right, some of the action already before the start of this race. The bright yellow car of Gilles de Ferran. Jacques Villeneuve on the pole as the field now begins to move very, very slowly under the control, of course, of the pole sitter. And I think they want to make sure they come through this corner at the bottom of the hill, the last corner on to the main and pit straight very, very carefully. Now they begin to accelerate. The pace car takes off. They come up the hill, pass under the bridge. The green flag should await them at the top of the rise. And here we go as Jacques Villeneuve jumps into the lead. De Ferran right behind him. Raoul Boisel comes down. And Michael Andretti moves to the inside. Tries to battle it out for third. They're wheel to wheel. Clean through the first corner. Now downhill again. Tremendous elevation changes here.
And you can see that Michael Andretti tried to put the squeeze on Boisel. Boisel kept running and didn't allow Michael down the inside. Now Michael comes down the inside at turn 5, one of the braking zones.
Boy, Michael Andretti is not going to let Boisel go if he has any say about it. He doesn't there, though. Slams the brakes. The entire field now coming through station 5, climbing to the top of the hill.
So close under braking. You saw what Boisel did. He moved down to the middle of the road to squeeze Michael. That's defensive driving. You are allowed to do that. It is correct. Look at Villeneuve slip and slide through the right-hand king.
For the time being, one car off at the top of the hill at 6. And looks like he's getting back on, but we don't have a clue. Robbie Gordon, more trouble. So Robbie Gordon off at the top of the hill now has to chase the rest of the field. Jacques Villeneuve still unchallenged. They head down through Thunder Valley, through the King.
And Villeneuve takes advantage of that low downforce, runs down these long straights, 200 miles an hour with Gilles de Ferran in pursuit. Robbie Gordon now, who's had a terrible weekend, jumped into this car just before the start of this race. Here's where it began to go wrong. This is turn 5. He's already off the road onto the dirt. Then he goes up the top of the hill, has stones and marbles on his tires, and right through the gravel trap, and lucky to come out the other side onto the grass. And the continuation of a struggle for Robbie Gordon's Valvoline car.
Now, we had an onboard camera on Robbie Gordon's car, but with that change at the last minute, it changed a lot of things to the backup car, but we couldn't get the camera over there. We apologize for that. Still got plenty of great onboard cameras for you. I think you're going to love them, especially at this circuit. We'll try throughout the afternoon to take a lap or two just listening and watching the cars. Raoul Boisel, the battle for third place, broken off for the moment. Michael Andretti still in pursuit. It's Villeneuve, de Ferran, Boisel, Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., Scott Pruitt. Paul Tracy's moved up into 7th place. Bobby Rahal is 8th. 9th is Christian Fittipaldi, and Teo Fabi is 10th. On board now with Paul Tracy as he battles it out with Al Unser Jr. and with Scott Pruitt.
Slices by Scott Pruitt in tremendous pain this morning in the warm-up. The wounds that he had, a plate and 4 screws inserted through on his left foot, burst the stitches, opened up, and he was in considerable pain, had ice packs on it after the warm-up, and wasn't sure if he could actually handle the full length of this race. Scott Pruitt closes up under braking.
Gives you an idea of Paul Tracy's dedication to the sport, though, that he's at least going to try it. And in fact, when we saw him last night, he was in great spirits and all ready to go in this race. And that's at the end of a terrible week. Not only did he have that broken leg, he got his house broken into this week. Not had a good one.
There he is, following Al Unser Jr. Jr. came here with very low downforce. The Penske car did 204 miles an hour down these long straights on Friday. Then they began to realize it just wasn't fast enough, wound the wing on, gave him more downforce, and he went much, much faster.
Paul Tracy, 7th place. Back from Michael Andretti's car as they climb the hill, looking back at the 5th place of Al Unser Jr. as they flash across the line, completing the 2nd lap here. 50 laps, 200 miles. Into the first turn, downhill. The right-hander just ahead.
Severe braking here for these cars. You jump up on the pedal. Look at Al's Jr. accelerates so much faster than Michael. Oh, wheel to wheel.
Oh, they touch! Oh, no! Michael and Al get together, and both are off, both are damaged, both are out.
And that's a 170-mile-an-hour crash for Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti, and we saw it unfold as they got close to one another and eventually made severe contact.
Well, was I premature? Did that pen? No. Left front's badly damaged.
2 championship contenders out of this race after precious few laps. 2 laps completed.
And a lot of debris, grass and gravel out on the race course. That may bring out a full course caution. The good news is with the giant course, yes, in fact, full course caution comes out. Johnny Rutherford will bring out the PPG pace car, and they will slow the field down. Al Unser Jr. in his first DNF of the season after contact with Michael Andretti. And Derek, just a simple matter of the 2 of them getting together.
And he comes off turn 3 much faster. Now Michael, I don't think he knows he's there. He begins to move across onto line. There it is, 170 miles an hour, and he turns Michael Andretti sideways, then backwards into the guardrail. Suspension damage for Al Unser Jr. and 2 of the championship contenders out after 2 laps. Here it is. This is turn 3. I don't believe Michael ever knew Al Unser Jr. was that close. Here it is from the helicopter. Al Unser Jr. on the outside line. Michael never sees him. 170 miles an hour. He goes sideways. Lucky he didn't destroy Carl Haas's Lola.
And that is a blind spot, though, on Michael's car, is it not?
Oh, it is a blind spot. We had a better view from our camera than Michael had. Here it is, here again. You can see that Al Unser Jr., his only option was to run wide onto the grass. If he did that at 170 miles an hour, he knew he was going to lose control. But let's look again. The slow-mo in-car. Al Jr. was much, much faster exiting turn 3. He had a run. Watch here. There's the contact. I would have to say that Al Unser Jr. began to stick his nose in, and I will almost guarantee you that Michael never knew he was there, because no driver would ever move across at that type of speed and deliberately cause some contact like that. But it's over for the day.
2 drivers who have been critical in the championship battle, and they will both go pointless today at Road America in the Texaco Haviland 200. We're under full course yellow. Back at Road America, full course caution. Al Unser Jr., his first DNF of the season. For Michael Andretti, it is his 5th. Both are out. Neither will score a point, and it's a point in the championship where they came in here in 6th and 7th position. Andretti, then Unser Jr. in the fight, and so that's going to have a dire effect on them. It also has moved Tracy up to 4th place in the standings as we went to yellow. A couple more views of the same situation. Derek Daly.
For some reason, Al Unser Jr. accelerated a full car length faster than Michael. This is from Paul Tracy. Listen to him back off. He backed off for maybe a fraction of a second and boom, straight back on it again, realized he was going to pick up 2 positions.
So as they get those cars off the circuit, Allenser Jr. Long walk back to his team, and then the long flight home. Very disappointed. Everybody comes up, what happened, Al? You can imagine he really wants to talk about it at this point. Allenser Jr. walking back into the paddock area. This is from Michael's car.
Listen.
All slow-mo.
Now, for some reason, Michael Andretti accelerates very slowly off turn 3. Al Jr. takes advantage and begins to slingshot. But he gets about here, and then he loses his momentum. Michael doesn't know he's there. There's the contact, breaks the top wishbone off the Penske. And then Michael is on a wild ride to the guardrail, which thankfully he didn't hit very hard. I don't believe he ever knew Junior was there.
Part of the good news about Road America is there's plenty of runoff room on either side of the race course. So this is the way they line up under full course yellow. 4 laps of 50 complete. Back at Road America, still a full course caution as they head down into Canada Corner, make the turn to the right up under the bridge, and will head back over for the front straight. And when they get there, we do anticipate the green flag will come out. Incident on lap 2, taking out both Michael Andretti and Allenser Jr., 2 drivers who have come up together in this sport and been so effective thus far. Now, Jacques Villeneuve, he's the leader. Only 4 times in 13 IndyCar races at Road America has the leader of the first lap gone on to win the race. Last one to do so was Paul Tracy. As the green flag flies again, and here we go.
And don't take your eyes off Paul Tracy, because when he gets a sniff of the front of the race here, he is dynamite sometimes. Look at Christian Fittipaldi behind him, bringing Teo Fabi down past Scott Pruitt.
Dale Fabi swings inside, outside. Rest of the field comes through. On board, Bobby Rahal. Down the hill through what they call 2 here. This is 3. Now onto that section of the course. Passes through the woods. Just ahead. On board with Andre Ribeiro now. Now, this woods area is where that incident happened. Long downhill. Then a sharp left-hander. Key passing area just ahead.
What we saw there, Rahal went down the inside to block that braking line from Ribeiro, just to make sure he had to think twice whether he wanted to dart down that inside. Very slow up here. Almost impossible to pass. Oh, look, the direction of the apex. Yeah. He glances in his mirror to see who's behind him.
Now, part of that with Rahal is when he looks back, anybody looking back at the Honda knows here on these long straights, that Honda's going to turn more revs. And you really have to think about getting in their way.
Honda runs to 14,000 RPM here in racing conditions. Everything else, look at Rahal closing on Fabi as he turns into the carousel. Believe it or not, now with the resurfacing, 150 miles an hour in the carousel, 180 miles an hour through the kink.
Unbelievable. On board Rahal, 9th place, 8th place.
Never been here before, came here on Wednesday, walked around every corner of the racetrack, sat on the curbs to absorb every angle, and now he gets to follow a former champion. Great day's experience for Andre Ribeiro.
Continuing the track, the battle between Andre Ribeiro and Bobby Rahal. Battle for 9th place. Rahal has it. Teo Fabi just ahead. Then Christian Fittipaldi. Everybody's still running nose to tail. In the pits is Scott Pruitt.
Here's his chances for a race win about to go out the window, because this means he has to make 3 pit stops. 3 pit stops on a racetrack like this is just too much. And look at that. Rahal again feels that Honda is a threat over the hill under braking. Will he get him?
Rahal weaves it back and forth. They come up the top of the hill. Head for Hurry Downs. Ribeiro's charging and continuing to challenge Rahal. Look at Rahal. Take a look in the mirrors.
85 feet of an elevation change here from the lowest part of the racetrack to the top of that hill.
And at the same time, Brian Herta now beginning to close down on this fight. Closes on Ribeiro. Through the carousel, through the gravel pit.
Fuel is not as worrisome as it was earlier. Those yellow flag laps lets everybody off the hook here because it is such high speeds. It just gulps the fuel down, and it's very difficult to get that 1.8 miles to the gallon that you must get in order to finish these 200 miles with the amount of fuel that IndyCar allows you to have in your car and in your fuel tank.
Battle on the circuit is right here. Jacques Villeneuve has 1 second lead over Gilles de Ferran. Gilles then has another second over third place Raoul Boisel, and Boisel another second over Paul Tracy as they flash across the line, completing the 7th lap.
Christian Fittipaldi now beginning to come under pressure from Teo Fabi, just up the road, 2 cars up the road from Bobby Rahal. He was the fastest man in the warm-up this morning.
Overhead Elkhart Lake here. The Honda Helocam looks down. Boy, this will give you some great shots and give you a great idea of how they maneuver around this circuit here as we look down on top of that battle once again. Nothing changes.
I've never seen as many people as there are here today. Look at this. Rahal blocks him again. So clearly Andre Ribeiro is faster than Bobby Rahal. But Robbie Rahal is giving him a lesson in defensive driving from the champion. Oh, he goes.
And Ribeiro locks him up, comes off. He should be able to get it back on there. There's plenty of room as they head for the carousel. But everything that he gained is now lost as several cars strung past him. Both Herta and Jimmy Vasser. Let's get an update on that first lap situation. Al Unser Jr. is now with Gary.
Actually, he's with Jan.
Excuse me, Jan.
Yeah, it's all right, Paul. He's made his way back to the trailer. How did that unfold, that incident, from your perspective?
Well, we got a run on Mikey off of turn 3, and then we were up there, and he just moved over on me on the straightaway, and I was too far up alongside of him to get out of the throttle, and you know, Michael's he's got some bad things going on right now with him, and that's it. You know, it was a shame what happened to me because the Marlboro car was running real good, but you just can't move over on each other down the straightaway, so.
It was a scary moment, but he's okay. Paul?
And once again, car off. Looks like Robbie Gordon once again. Boy, most unpleasant day. The second off for Gordon.
He's good off the road. He was off the road last weekend, and Barstow finished 4th in his off-road truck.
Might even be faster there.
IndyCar to see, would this be a good off-road truck? But not a good weekend for Robbie Gordon.
Watch the front of the field coming through once again. Now it's Christian Fittipaldi beginning to challenge Paul Tracy. Gary Gerald, Scott Pruitt into the pits. What was the problem there?
Well, Paul, you and Derek mentioned a lot of debris out of turn number 3, and apparently that was the cause of the problem for Scott Pruitt. He faded very quickly, was back to 12th, then had to limp to the pits with a flat rear tire. The crew said it looked like a punctured type of a cut from debris on the racetrack. He got fresh rubber. He's back out there, but he lost a tremendous amount of ground.
All right, so that's the story on Scott Pruitt. That debris becomes a factor in his race as well. Jacques Villeneuve still the leader. Gilles de Ferran in second place, then Raoul Boisel, then Paul Tracy now. Christian Fittipaldi is 5th. There's Christian. Teo Fabi right behind him. Bobby Rahal just behind that runs in 7th place, followed by Brian Herta and Jimmy Vasser. Then Stefan Johansson is 10th.
Great fight here for these positions. Rahal let off the hook a little bit by Andre Ribeiro, making that mistake. Now Rahal can concentrate on the faster racing line and try and keep up with Teo Fabi.
So now 9 laps complete here at the Texaco Haviland Grand Prix at Road America, with Jacques Villeneuve as the leader of the race, followed by Gilles de Ferran. We'll be back. America, the Texaco Haviland 200. Jacques Villeneuve is the leader of the race as we take a look at the intervals back through the field. Jack just turned the fastest lap of the race at 133 miles, 34 miles an hour, and then Gilles de Ferran answered that almost immediately. In fact, immediately with a lap at 134.4. So right now, 2 guys running very, very fast here. Let's go to the pits and Gary.
A few moments ago, we heard from Al Unser Jr. Now Michael Andretti has made the way back to the paddock. Michael, from your seat, what happened?
I lost sight of Al. He had more of a run on me than I thought, and then when I was starting to cross lanes on my normal line, I lost sight of him, and I didn't know if he was on my left or my right, and I just started to figure out, I'm going to start doing my normal line, and then I got hit, you know, so it was one of those things. It was a racing accident. I mean, if I would have known he was there, I would have never went over there. I mean, because I knew I was going to get the worst of it. So,
were you slow coming out of that corner? Had you missed anything in that corner at all that allowed him to make that run on you?
No, I hit it so-so. It wasn't a perfect run there, but you know, he must have hit it right. And you know, he had a lot more speed than I thought, because I lost sight of him.
Have you ever had a stretch in your career where you've been dogged by this kind of misfortune?
Probably not. Not being in a position to win and then have misfortunes like this. You know, it's been tough, you know, because the race was going exactly the way I wanted. I was just going to try to stay with the leaders for a while, because I think as it went on, I was really trying to watch my tires, and I think that was all going to work out for us. But, thanks, Michael. Thanks.
Well, so the Newman Haas team hopes are up to this man, Paul Tracy now. He currently runs in 4th place. And all of the leaders of the race are staying in fairly close contact as they climb the hill, complete the 11th lap of 50.
That's right. There's no way he would have moved across if he'd known Al Unser Jr. was there. And we can see here the Targa twins took advantage of Ribeiro flying off the road down to the Hurry Downs, and Brian Hurt is glad to take up the chase of Bobby Rahal and Teo Fabi.
Herta currently runs in 8th place. Vassar just behind him in 9th. There they are together, closing on Bobby Rahal. You see this full field summary. You can see all the intervals of cars behind the leader.
Brian Hurt's engineer, Mo Nunn, was very confident after the morning warm-up when he filled this car full of gas and sent it out. And Brian was very confident, thought he could run with the leaders. They've battled understeer with this car most of the weekend, and as soon as you get understeer, the tires begin to grain, they begin to roll the rubber off. And once that happens, suddenly you lose all the grip of the front end. Let's listen in over Brian Hurt's shoulder. This is the carousel. 150 miles an hour he exits here, and then it gets faster from there. Miles an hour on this run. 3 gears down, 3rd gear. 6-speed gearbox. Road racing at its finest, through the trees, 85 feet of elevation changes, and 200 miles an hour down the front straight here, chasing Bobby Rahal. It's the apex, 3rd gear corner. They're 6th. Stands on the brakes. See Rahal get sideways in front of him? That's the sign to a driver. Maybe Rahal is beginning to wear out those rear tires. Slowest corner on the racetrack coming up. 50 miles an hour at the apex.
One lap with Brian Hurt. And Derek, you raced Indy cars and a lot of other heavy equipment here at Road America. I raced the Formula Ford at June Sprints a lot of times. Let me tell you, for the Indy car, those straightaways are a lot shorter than I remember. Boy, do they get down them.
They do, and to a man, they love coming to Road America for the variety of corners. Look at this up under the bridge. Some cars went flat through that left-hander. It's never been done before here at Road America. But that new surface has given a lot of grip to these cars.
And while we've been watching Brian Hurta, no battles on the course, but a battle in top speeds. Jacques Villeneuve up the ante to 134.2. at 34.4, and then Andre Ribeiro reacted at 1:34.9, and then Jacques Villeneuve jumped up to that, and Ribeiro just ran a lap at 1:35.7. 14 laps are now complete at Road America, the Texaco Haviland 200. Here's the battle among the engine manufacturers, with Ford leading it right now, but Mercedes-Benz occupying second and third. And battle of top speeds continues too, as Ribeiro and his Honda has been spectacular. Here's the move on Rahal.
Well, we saw Rahal do that down the inside earlier, protecting that position. Now Brian Herta forced to go down the outside, and thankfully he didn't fight all the way to the apex because Rahal had the room, but he is under pressure again, is Bobby Rahal. Oh, look at Vassar.
Vassar looks for room alongside of his teammate. Inside, outside, can't find it.
There's the problem. When Herta makes a move on Rahal, he gives up the ideal racing line, which allows Jimmy Vassar, look at that twitch from Vassar, to close up. And Ribeiro has a grandstand view of all of this target crashing and bashing going on ahead of him.
We'll keep an eye on this fight and on the leader, Jacques Villeneuve. In the meantime, Gary Gerald.
We were checking on that concern we mentioned just before green about that sensor on the shifting mechanism that caused all kinds of problems this morning in the half-hour warm-up session. Thus far, it does not appear to be a problem. No negative comments from the cockpit on the radio from Jacques Villeneuve. Now, how did that yellow flag impact the fuel situation? Let's check with Jan on that aspect.
Well, Gary, the yellow flag should have extended the fuel stop, so we just heard from Jim Hall that Gilles de Ferran, who currently runs second, the crew, as we speak, are rolling out the tires. It looks like he's coming in on lap 15, which we think would be earlier. Most of the other guys will be in on lap 17. Another note, Gilles de Ferran may have lost the clutch. Could be a big problem here for the first pit stop.
At the top of the order, Jacques Villeneuve just turned a lap at 136.2. as he ups that ante on the top speed of the race. Of course, the car going light now as Eric Bachelard comes into the pits. He started 25th, running 15th as he came into the pits, and we are on the 15th lap. So that would be a little bit early, especially considering the yellow flag lap. Anticipation is now most of the cars will at least wait until lap 17.
Villeneuve mentioned at the top of the show, the cooler the better for us because we have low downforce. And we had a cloud cover come over here and bury the strong sunshine just before the start of this race. And believe it or not, the slight temperature drop does make a difference. Yesterday, we had a spectacular qualifying session because with 7 minutes to go, we had cloud cover, the temperature went down, and in the last 7 cars that went across the line, each of them took the pole position, with Villeneuve being the very last man across the line.
Carlos Guerrero, Marco Greco, they've both come into the pits, routine service on lap 15. As yet, no indication from any of the leaders' pits that they would stop on 16, so it clearly appears they'll go at least 17 laps before that stop. Except for de Ferran, who makes his turn. Let's see how big a problem he may have, Jan Beekes.
Well, he's on his way in. He's going to be bringing that Pennzoil Reynard to a stop. He stops it right on the marks, but the problem for Gilles de Ferran is going to be getting out of here. They're going to make no chassis adjustments. Very happy with the machine at the moment. But remember, right now he's trying to pump the clutch. He's trying to get it to work. They're going to try and push him. Let's listen, see if he can get away. Yeah, they're going to have to try and get him up to speed. He gets it into gear. Not too bad. Gilles de Ferran, the crew is celebrating. He's underway.
Not only his crew, but everybody else seemed happy that he got out of there without incident. So Gilles de Ferran, now the clutch is not an issue any longer. He won't use it from now on.
No, it's not until he comes into the pit lane next time. Now, he was just about 3 seconds slower behind Jacques Villeneuve, but that precious couple of seconds he lost while they started him may be costly, and we can measure that when Jacques Villeneuve makes his stop.
About a 13.5-second stop for Gilles de Ferran. So in and out in good time, as Jacques Villeneuve, the leader of the race, has now completed his 16th lap. And his crew begins to anticipate by setting some tires up on the edge of the wall, but not yet over. Raul Boisel moves up to second place. Gilles de Ferran came out of the pits in third. Paul Tracy is fourth. Christian Fittipaldi is fifth.
this is now leading these races, and obviously fuel consumption is something this team works very, very hard on, and they do it as good as anybody. Barry Green's team here again showing just how fuel efficient this Players Reynard is as Jacques Villeneuve continues to run away from everybody.
Raoul Boisel comes into the pits. Christian Fittipaldi comes into the pits. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Raoul Boisel is now getting his service. We checked with Carl Hogan. They're expecting to make no changes. His team owner just went past him. Bobby Rahal also in here, and Teo Fabi just ahead of him. He's waiting for the last bit of fuel. He's anxious to get out of here. Raoul Boisel lights up the tires, and he's gone.
All of these stops being made on leader lap 17, with, of course, the exception of the leader. Jacques Villeneuve stays out.
Fittipaldi, as you can see, gets out ahead of Bobby Rahal. So that has become almost a battle in the pit lane, because Rahal, to my mind, made up an enormous amount of time on Christian Fittipaldi there.
Well, this will be the question mark now. Suggested that Team Green gets really good fuel mileage, but do they get an extra 4 miles? Can they get this done? He's still got considerable section of race course to go.
And of course, remember, the more laps he runs with this light fuel load, the faster he goes, as opposed to everybody else who just about has a full tank of fuel, and he still runs light.
And he still has the fastest lap of the race at 136.2 miles an hour.
And he set that just 2 laps ago. So Jacques Villeneuve, no trouble here. No trouble with tires. Our car, will he come in this time?
And there he is. So Jack heads into the pits. He is the first pit at the top of the hill that is open and available, and Gary Gerald waits for him.
He's got a wide open shot as he comes in here and perfectly spots it right on the line, and immediately you hear those air guns go to work. This crew has been sensational this year. They won the pit competition at Indianapolis. They won a race, the season opener in the pits at Miami. He's rolling. We've got him in 12.5 seconds. Good and clean and routine for Jacques Villeneuve.
Paul Tracy came in at the same time, and he's completed his stop, but he falters. Paul Tracy kills the engine as he starts to roll out. We watch Jacques Villeneuve. There's Paul Tracy as they try to get it restarted, Jan. Gary?
We're watching now. They get it fired, and he's gone, but it took them a long time. He's going to have lost a lot of positions that he worked so hard to gain, and with that foot hurting him so badly, this is one of the key situations. Dumping the clutch, getting out of the pits. That's what gives him the most discomfort with that broken foot.
You're absolutely right, Gary. 3 times this morning in the warm-up, Paul Tracy's foot was so painful he could not modulate the clutch pressure, and he stalled it. Now he does it again at the critical time in the race. But here's a critical time of the race also. Now we see the time that was wasted by Gilles de Ferran. And Eddie Cheever's in the gravel trap.
Eddie Cheever off into the gravel. It'll take a tow to get that car out of there. Here's apparently how he got there.
Under braking, as Bachelor slides down the inside, and he makes contact. Yes, he does make contact with Eddie Cheever, sends him on his way to the gravel trap. And when you get buried axle deep, you never drive out, and that brings out a full course yellow.
And they'll have to get the safety vehicles out, and when they do that and set them astride the race course and partially on the gravel pit, then they definitely want to go full course yellow. So Jacques Villeneuve is still the leader of the race. He's led right from the start, but look how far up Parker Johnstone's gone. Eliseo Salazar just been in and out of the pits and then rolled to a stop at the edge of the course. We are still under the full course caution as a result of Eddie Cheever and Eric Bachelor getting together and setting Eddie Cheever off into the gravel pit. So while they tow him out of there, everyone will once again line up behind the PPG pace car and Johnny Rutherford. Jacques Villeneuve is the leader of the race under yellow, then Raoul Boisel, then Gilles de Ferran, Christian Fittipaldi, and Brian Herta. Here they are as they come through the field.
So Gilles de Ferran's pit stop, we had spoken about that earlier, was costly, even though he did manage to get out. That precious couple of seconds he lost when he didn't have the burst of acceleration cost him that second place to Raoul Boisel. Quick look at Salazar earlier on. Very lucky to get that car into the race at all, because he had a big crash this morning in the warm-up, and Dick Simon's boys did well to rebuild that car for Eliseo Salazar.
Paul Tracy's falter in the pits was costly too, as he fell to 6th place. 7th is Bobby Rahal, and then Teo Fabi, Jimmy Vasser, and Andre Rivero.
And you can see also that Brian Herta's crew did an exceptionally good job to put him up into 5th place.
Driver out of the race, Robbie Gordon. He's had a tough day on Beekes.
That's right, Paul. Very tough day for Robbie Gordon. What finally put you out?
Gearbox trying to leave pit lane. As soon as I popped it in gear, it broke. It's unfortunate because we did have a pretty good car after all the trouble we went through all weekend. You know, we were having a very hard time on the straightaways. We weren't hanging with the guys, so it made it really hard to overtake under braking. And that's how we went off one time. And then the other time at the start, you know, we got by 4 or 5 cars at the start. We were doing pretty good. And somebody clipped tires from me and just knocked me out into the gravel. You know, we would have liked to have got a better finish with the Valvoline car this weekend. But, you know, there's always next weekend. It's a street circuit, and that's where we won our last race. So we're looking forward to going back there.
Well, it's a great bit of off-road driving. Sorry you're out so early. Paul?
So Robbie Gordon out as they try to get Eddie Cheever's car out, but apparently Eddie thinks he can get it restarted and re-going because he's going to stay tight in the cockpit. Maybe they can bump start it on the toe. We'll be back. 200 Road America, 4 miles around, 14 turns. We have a full course caution underway. It is the second of the day as they try to get Eddie Cheever out of the gravel pit and restart it after his contact with Eric Bachelard. They line up behind the pace car. Villeneuve, Bosell, third place to Farron, then Christian Fittipaldi, and then Brian Herta. So of the top 5, 4 of them have never won an IndyCar race. Then Paul Tracy is 6th, then Bobby Rahal, Teo Fabi, Jimmy Vasser, and Andre Ribeiro. Well, now time to settle down a little bit and freshen up and change out of his driver's uniform. We've got the good fortune of having Michael Andretti join us and is going to be able to watch some of this race and help keep track of it with us. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
You just didn't see him at all, eh?
No, I mean, if had I seen him, I wouldn't have been there for sure. Because in those situations, a guy in front always gets the worst of it, and you know, it was just it was a bad thing. I mean, I didn't know Al had that much of a run, and I just lost him in my mirrors, and I assumed that he was going back to the left side, and he was on my right side.
You've had sun on the race course for much of the run today. What kind of effect do you think that's going to have?
It was a little slippery out there than it was this morning for sure. But again, for me, it was early in the race. I mean, it was only a second lap or something like that. So you know, there wasn't enough time to settle things down, get tire pressures up and things like that. So I can't really comment on the track too much.
Well, if you could, would you stay with us for a moment or two as we're ready to go back to green flag racing as they come around the carousel. Okay. And we'll go green at the end of this lap, so we'll just leave your microphone on there and hopefully you can join us for a minute or two. We're sorry you're out of the race, but we do appreciate the opportunity to have you on board with us. We watched from your teammate Paul Tracy's car. He had a problem coming out of the pits. He faltered. Was that mechanical or?
No, I think that's a problem with his left foot, you know, being broken. He was having problems this morning. I guess they had to replace some stitches, so he's in a lot of pain. So he's doing a pretty good job considering.
So we'll keep track of Paul Tracy, who sits in 6th position.
In fact, we know that it was a go-kart accident. It wasn't an impact that caused the problem. He actually rolled his go-kart. He has his own 125cc go-kart. He rolled it upside down, and he was actually trying to run from the crash at high speed when he broke his foot himself. So it wasn't actually an impact with anything, but he does like to race that go-kart near his home in Phoenix.
All right, now Jack Villeneuve comes around the final turn, ready to climb the hills, already taking her up to speed. Pace car clear of the course, climbs to the top of the hill. Raul Boisel clears Carlos Guerrero and now is in full contact with him as we go green flag once again. No battle at the front of the field, but DeFerrin is closing in, so is Christian Fittipaldi. Christian Fittipaldi takes a move to the inside. Carlos Guerrero is a bit of a factor there as they come around him. Now they spread out coming down the hill, but everybody's got to get around Guerrero.
He is a factor, but in fairness now, look at Guerrero. He moves aside, and Dick Simon's car lets all the leaders have the room they need. So a good piece of driving using his mirrors there by Carlos Guerrero.
Michael Andretti, when you have a slower car in the leader serial like that, that can get pretty tense?
Yeah, for sure, especially if you know that the leader's there and you got to get by him. Guerrero actually did a good job on that restart. He stayed pretty close to Jacques, so it wasn't a big thing. Oh, there was a shame for Brian.
As we had a battle coming up the top of the hill, Herta battling with Rahal, almost got Tracy, and then the course just got too narrow when they got to the top of the hill, and Herta off. Now Rahal in contact with Paul Tracy. So battle for 5th place as Tracy was able to move forward when Herta came off.
You could see that accident happened under braking at turn 5 when Paul Tracy made a very brave move down the inside of Brian Herta, forced him offline, and we will have to go to yet another full course yellow to dig Brian Herta's target car out of the gravel trap.
Gravel traps can in fact be good in that they'll occasionally slow a car down, but then you got to figure out how to get it out, and that means a full course yellow almost every time. There it is.
Tracy already down the inside, slows Herta's exit. Look at this. Rahal gets up the inside now. At this stage, Michael, you might agree, Brian Herta should have given up the corner. He had no hope of turning to the apex, and look at the trouble he got into.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Bobby had a pretty good run on him, so yeah, I think he should have seen that he was going to be out of racetrack.
And of course, what Brian did was brake too late, lock up those front brakes, and then you miss your turn-in point. And once you lock those fronts, then you are steering straight ahead off the racetrack, over the curbs, through the grass, and buried in the beach.
Michael, were you in Brian Herta's cockpit? Would you have climbed out of it at that point and just given the corner away?
Well, I probably wouldn't have. I would have braked maybe a little bit earlier and tried to go around the outside. But I think what Brian had problem there with his front brakes locking up, and I think that's what got him in trouble, to be honest with you.
We're going to see a little more of Michael Andretti immediately following our coverage here as we debut the new transactional TV show Speed Shop right after our coverage of the Texaco Haviland 200. You want some IndyCar souvenirs? Haviland 200, as finally Brian Herta is pulled out of the gravel pit and gets underway, but a very costly period of time there drops him to 20th position, and of course well off the pace. He's dropped a full lap. Look at that, the Brazilian flag. Can you make that out? That's Christian Fittipaldi's car number 15 out of the Derek Walker stable, and that's a great design on that car. So we should be going green here shortly with Jacques Villeneuve, who's turned the fastest lap thus far at 136.2. The leader, Raul Boesel, took advantage of good pit stop, moved into second place. Gilles de Ferran is third. Fourth is Christian Fittipaldi, and then Paul Tracy. Now, here, Derek, is how they went into the pits, how they came out, and how long they spent stopped.
And you can see that Gilles de Ferran was the one that lost out. Boesel gained. But look at Paul Tracy. He lost 2 positions, but his eyes are out on stalks at the moment because that move he put on Brian Herta, just watch him try to put the same move on Christian Fittipaldi on cool tires.
Derek Daly with us, also Michael Andretti watching from the pits and keeping track from television monitoring there. It's all up and down the pits. All of the teams can do that. As the green flag comes out again, and Jacques Villeneuve responds to that and begins to pull away from Raul Boesel. But take a look at Christian Fittipaldi once again. As he tries de Ferran. De Ferran at the same time tries Boesel, and de Ferran gets him.
Oh, a great move under braking. He was trying to block Christian Fittipaldi first. Who's in trouble? Look at Tracy.
Paul Tracy comes up alongside Christian Fittipaldi. Bobby Rahal closes in. Paul doesn't have enough to get him off of that corner, but he's very much in the fight. There's Rahal as he closes Tracy.
And you saw Tracy look in the mirrors. He wanted to know exactly where Bobby Rahal was, and Fabi gets by Rahal, and he blocks him.
Christian Fittipaldi under braking alongside Boesel. They're very close in the corner. Boesel runs almost off. Christian Fittipaldi comes alongside. Paul Tracy gets around him as well. Now Paul Tracy challenges Fittipaldi.
Never take your eyes off Paul Tracy on these restarts with cool tires, because he was outside, he was inside, he got it sideways under acceleration, and he gets past Boesel and gets up behind Christian.
Rahal moves left and right trying to get around Teo Fabi. On board Rahal now. Hey Michael, your teammate's looking pretty good right now.
He's doing a good job. You know, I think he's got a good car. I know that. It's pretty much the same setup as I have, and we both thought we were going to have a good race.
He's also got the guts and stamina to hold on despite that injury and the pain, don't you think?
Yeah, once you're out there and going, you don't even feel pain. Your adrenaline's going so much. So, you know, he'll feel it tonight, though, I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I bet he will. Down through Canada corner. Leader still is Jacques Villeneuve. Boesel is still second. No, de Ferran is still second.
The old adrenaline pump.
Yeah, boy.
Rides the pain. You saw Rahal lock up that right front. But remember, de Ferran still has that clutch problem. On
the hill on the 24th lap. Approaching now the halfway point. 50 laps, 200 miles here. Quick off and on, no factor. Except for visibility, of course.
can be a problem here when you begin to go through a dust storm like that. You're not sure where the cars are. Look at this, 2 abreast. Fabi gets the run on Tracy.
As Teo Fabi makes a good move to the inside. Tracy blocks to the outside on Rahal, trying to get around Fabi. I'm not even sure he knew that Rahal was there, and he comes back around Teo Fabi.
Superb move by Paul Tracy. Fabi had him beaten, took the inside line, and Tracy was not beaten. Down the outside, did it the hard way. An excellent move.
Oh, that was pretty stuff by Paul Tracy.
Well, if you thought he was in pain and it was causing him to go slower, no way. He has the bit between his teeth and the adrenaline pump.
Gary Gerald, you're watching from the Newman Haas pits, keeping an eye on Tracy.
Well, this is the point of the race where the cheerleading is really getting underway in earnest, because on the radio, the crew is telling Tracy they know the discomfort he's in, but they're telling him, of course, that with Al Jr., with Robbie Gordon, with his teammate Michael Andretti all out of the race, it's a great opportunity to do a job in terms of the points. And so that motivating carrot has been dangled now in front of Paul Tracy, and he's responding. Meanwhile, Villeneuve running out in front, his crew doing the same. They're telling him on the radio, you've got the fastest lap of the race, and they're talking him through the midpoint of this 200-mile competition.
But Paul Tracy has a lot to worry him lined up behind him in the person of a very racy Teo Fabi. And then Rahal. In fact, there's a good lineup right behind him, just waiting for one little mistake. Take a look at Jimmy Vasser, too. Remember the winner at Portland? Right behind Rahal. Look at this as Teo Fabi tries to outbrake him on the inside, locks everything up. Obviously way too early and not nearly enough.
And he got a great run on Paul Tracy, sucked himself right up under his rear wing, and then locked up both of those front brakes very, very quickly. Lost his steering, and there was no hope there, Michael, of him ever pulling that move off.
Michael, what do you think of all this? Wish you were out there in this. Michael Andretti is still with us, or
the action is so hot in the pit lane, he wants to go out and watch it personally.
Yeah, I think Paul, Teo got in a little trouble there. I think he's flat spotted his front tires now. That was a pretty tough move to pull off there.
He was basically too far behind, and it was almost impossible to make that big a lunge and try and make that move. Now, Rahal gets an opportunity to close up behind him, but Rahal doesn't seem to have the raw speed that he needs to challenge these people, as obviously the kart safety crew have seen something on this front straight, and they are out trying to clean up whatever small pieces of debris that might be out there.
That's the good news on a big circuit like this. You have plenty of time to do that. Jan Vikas, what's out there?
Well, the report that we have is it's some carbon fiber from Scott Pruitt's car. I'm not sure how it got there, but we heard some radio communications up and down the pit lane. Some of the teams warning their drivers. Some carbon fiber, probably a piece of bodywork, and it appears as though it's from the Patrick Racing machine.
All right, continuing to watch Teo Fabi, Bobby Rahal. Leader is still Jack Villeneuve. He's been right at point right from the start. And we just crossed the halfway point. Leader at the halfway is going on to win 5 of the last 8 races at Road America. So now we have 2 stats to deal with. The leader on the first lap, who traditionally doesn't do well, or the leader at the halfway point, who traditionally does. Pick one.
5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Jimmy Vasser 9th. Stefan Johansson 10th. Again, IndyCar racing more competitive than we've ever seen it in the past. Rahal again elects to take that inside line, and here's a battle. Big Mo outside Fernandez.
Fernandez darts to the inside, gets him now. Mauricio Gugelmin has to follow him up the hill, but very definitely locked in a fight here. Battle for 12th place.
Oh, Fernandez. This car is obviously very loose for him. Gets it sideways over that curbing.
That's a 4-way battle, too, because you've got Parker Johnstone right behind him. And then Danny Sullivan, the teammate, is lined up 4th car in that order there when we go to 4th. Michael Andretti, we really appreciate you spending the time with us. We know you want to go cheer on your teammate and probably settle down. Thanks for joining us here in the Texaco Haviland 200. Good to have you on board.
Thanks a lot. My pleasure.
So there's the running order as 26 laps are now complete. And at Road America, celebrating its 40th anniversary. We keep an eye on Paul Tracy. It's Jack Villeneuve that is the winner of the race. Tracy runs in 5th place, but he's got plenty of folks lined up behind him, all who would anxiously like to get around him. And this has turned into a really terrific battle.
Great fight here. Paul Tracy seems to have a bit of a handful. His car is a bit loose under power. Fabi makes a challenge around the outside. Oh, difficult move to try and pull off against Tracy.
Tracy on the inside line there still commands the corner. Now they climb the hill away from Station 5. Up off the top of the hill, maybe Teo Fabi, as they come down through Hurry Downs, will have another shot at it. Ray Hall closes on Teo.
Tracy under power seems to be loose. When you're loose, you begin to protect those rear tires and not be as aggressive standing on the power as you would normally. That might be what gives Teo Fabi that little slingshot out of those low-speed corners and forces Paul Tracy to try and protect that position, but it is great racing.
Christian Fittipaldi now runs in 3rd place, Jan Beekes.
That's right, Paul. You've seen how much he's picked up the pace since that pit stop. We checked in with David Cripps, who, of course, works for Walker Racing and calls the shots for Christian Fittipaldi. They said the car was a little bit loose, so they took some front wing out. He's very happy with the handling of that car at the moment. You've also seen Eddie Sheaver off the track. We can tell you after checking with A.J. Foyt, he had an incident with Eric Bachelard, got out in the sand, stalled it, but as you can see on the racetrack, he's back underway, but well behind the leaders.
So we'll keep an eye on the leader of the race, Jacques Villeneuve, who just upped the ante on the fastest lap. Cut one at 136.3 miles an hour. So at the halfway point, Jacques Villeneuve had been the leader and been it all the way, averaging 108.504 miles an hour. And he's been the leader right from the start, but the 3 cautions have been a problem here, slowing the average speed. But the good news is every time they do it, it bunches everybody back up, and we've got somebody off the course. Big time.
Danny Sullivan is one of them, and his teammate.
Oh, no. Gugelmin and Sullivan. Let's see how this goes. What's that Danny saying? It's you?
Well,
no.
Gugelmin was running 12th, and Danny Sullivan was running 14th.
And the full course caution comes out once again.
So the whole Pac West team is wiped out in one incident here. Danny Sullivan and Big Mo done for the day.
29 laps complete. Danny Sullivan's telling everybody we're both okay. And we'll slow her down again. Souvenir or two. Maybe they'll even throw these cars in. That's Danny Sullivan's car, nose to nose with Mauricio Gugelmin's car. No indication yet of how these two got in this rather strange position. Obviously, you saw that both Danny Sullivan and Mauricio Gugelmin are fine and still friendly. But under this full course yellow, we've had some pit stops, Gary Gerald.
Jacques Villeneuve, the pace setter all afternoon long, came in, and he was terrifically fast in the pits, or his crew more precisely was. 11.2 seconds for 4 tires and a full complement of fuel. Also, Paul Tracy came in, and unlike the first time he was in, no problems as he dropped the clutch. He got away cleanly. It was a good, smooth stop as well for Paul Tracy. But now, you guys are going to have to do a little quick calculating. We're not sure how many laps are complete. Looks like this has suddenly become a 3-stop race.
It looks that way. 30 laps complete at this point. And Jill DeFerrin.
Look at the problem now Paul Tracy has. Look at the right side mirror.
What happened there?
It has actually turned itself all the way down, and that is a very, very uncomfortable situation for a driver, because he will not know if there's somebody trying to come down his outside.
Now, during those stops, it was a pretty good battle coming out of the pits. The interesting part is that Jill DeFerrin took the lead coming out of the pits, and this happened on the stops.
What's Jimmy Vasser? Straight out and actually hits Teo Fabi on the run, trying to get position, which in fact he does. Gets away with it and passes Teo Fabi during that pit stop.
Now let's go to Jan.
Well, Paul, don't put away that calculator yet, because some people have not made pit stops and may still make pit stops under this yellow flag. We're standing in Christian Fittipaldi's pit. You can see the tires are laid out behind me. He's on the back side of the course, but he should be here shortly. So, although it's yellow and you usually want to stop on the very first lap, they think if they stop now, maybe if the caution goes long enough, they could still make this a 2-stop race.
Yeah, Derek, that tactic doesn't necessarily play on a long course like this. You really want to try and figure out how many laps of full course yellow there may in fact be, because you're picking up so much mileage when you're doing that. Gil de Ferran stayed out, Christian Fittipaldi stayed out, Andre Ribeiro stayed out. Gary?
Well, that's a concern already for Villeneuve and Tracy. We mentioned they came in immediately under the yellow. They've got at least one more lap that they've got to try to conserve and protect fuel. And both drivers are being told exactly that from their crews. They're in the save, save, save mode. Christian Fittipaldi and those guys that hung on for the extra lap may have a very slight advantage. That could be huge, because 3 times in the years going back to 1982, the outcome of this race has been decided by somebody running out of fuel on the last lap.
So Christian Fittipaldi makes his stop from 3rd place.
But here's the big problem Fittipaldi has now as he comes down the pit lane. Watch over the pit wall. That's the pace car, and there's all his competitors beginning to stream on by, because he will now be at the back of this line, and Jacques Villeneuve is at the front, who has enough fuel to go the rest of the distance.
So we'll keep track, and he stalls it. So even more problems here for Christian Fittipaldi. And they finally get it going, and he heads out. So it made matters just a little bit worse. When we come back, we should be ready for green flag racing once again here at Road America. Yellow flags still fly here. It's working to a little bit of advantage for Emerson Fittipaldi, who had finally moved up to 8th place, and then looks like the wheel nut came off.
And in fact, the wheel is being held on by the safety device that holds on that central locking nut, and Emerson goes down through turn 5 to take a shortcut. Gary, Gerald, you have more?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. It is the left front wheel that's the concern. They didn't get it secured properly. Tom Brown, Chuck Sprague, Rick Reineman, all of them working the wheel here on the wall with a safety official. Emerson will be back in, and of course a very scary situation when that happens. Fortunately for him, it's under yellow, but this is still not good. It's a tough break for Team Penske.
Boy, and the fuel game is going to be spectacular here too.
What it is, though, it's a great view of the safety feature that CART has built in that stops these center locking wheel nuts coming off all the way in the event of them coming loose. Therefore, the wheel, although it's cockeyed, it doesn't actually come off, and he can drive back to the pit lane.
Take a look at Paul Tracy too. He's been trying to fix his mirror.
Oh,
they're running slow, relatively slow.
How big a problem this will be. There is no way that mirror is going to stay up. No way. Even if he tapes it with race tape. Oh, he's trying to screw it back in and realizes that it's a lost cause. So now his right side is blind.
Let's go to Gary.
And Emerson Fittipaldi comes in at low speed. They work with that wheel. Rick Reineman on the left front has pulled it off. They're looking to see if there's been any damage to the suspension. They brought wishbone parts out here just in case. It appears to be all right. Now they wait to get it snapped into place. No, now one of the other crew members looking at the air scoop. No debris in there. Emerson gets back on the throttle, and he's out of here, and we go to Jan Beekes.
Well, we had an opportunity to see the other Fittipaldi in here earlier as Emerson goes behind me. We look very carefully. They made another wing change on the front of Christian Fittipaldi's car. Remember, after the first pit stop, they took some front wing out. He was really quick. They've taken more out. He could be even faster when we get back to green.
Well, on the course itself, they're going to go another lap under the full course caution. Gil de Ferran is the leader. It's the first time he has ever led an IndyCar race. 32 laps are complete, 18 to go. Fuel's going to be a real big question. And the tactics on that stop, they were remarkable.
I have to say, I don't understand the tactics yet of Gil de Ferran, because he is literally just going to give up his hard-won lead when he has to make a pit stop, and he hasn't made it under yellow.
It's taking quite some time to get Sullivan's and Gugelman's car off the course here. There's the way they're lined up as we're ready to come back to green flag, hopefully at the conclusion of this lap. Back at Road America, Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. This man, Gil de Ferran, leads an IndyCar race for the first time in his career. We should be going back to green flag racing shortly. His crew is laid out for him, though, so that he could get some tires and fuel, and that makes things interesting as well. You and Russ Thompson, our statistician, are just trying to do all of the figuring. Will these guys make it to the end of the race?
Obviously, at Jim Hall's team, we're not confident that Gil de Ferran, under racing conditions, could do more than 18 laps, whereas Jacques Villeneuve's crew believes he can. Now what's going to happen? Exactly what we saw happen to Christian Fittipaldi earlier. He is going to have to peel off into the pit lane and and the line of cars will begin to sail by him. Now, most of those cars in line, except for Stefan Johansson, who's running third, have all made their second pit stop. So it is touch and go now whether all those cars who made the second pit stop can in fact go all the way if it stays green for the rest of this race.
So de Ferran will come off, make his stop. That'll make Jacques Villeneuve the winner, the leader of the race. Let's not be premature here, Paul. The leader of the race as they come to the green flag. He'll be followed by Stefan Johansson, assuming that Stefan doesn't head into the pits because it's been 14 laps since he stopped as well. Then Raoul Boisel, and then Paul Tracy. They're going to give Emerson Fittipaldi, you see him right there behind de Ferran, a stop-and-go penalty. He apparently ran over a hose on his way into the pits. There goes de Ferran off. There goes Fittipaldi, though this isn't a time that he could take the stop-and-go. And Stefan Johansson also headed into the pits as well. So let's watch. And this may have been a good move. They say one more lap. So at least he's not going to lose racing time here, Jan Beekes.
Paul, this may be a great move. They were expecting to come in on the lap that they were going to go green. Now they're under a yellow flag, full course caution. I saw one of the Ganassi cars come in also. They are not going to make any changes on this car. He's going to lose a lot of track position, but as you said, it's still yellow. He can at least catch up to the rear of the field. Remember, no clutch. Oh, yeah, he killed it, but they were pushing hard enough. One crew member down, but that's more out of jubilation. This could be the last stop here. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Well, here's Barry Green with Jacques Villeneuve. Now, you see de Ferran come in now, and he gets the late fuel. How much does that impact your strategy, and you're concerned over your fuel consumption since you were first in?
Well, it's going to be tight for us, Gary. We took that gamble just now. It was pretty obvious after the first stop that we were making better fuel mileage than de Ferran. So we're not too concerned. It's still going to be tight for them. They were a couple of laps short of us, but it'll be interesting. We should be okay, though.
Now that you've had this much yellow, that obviously is helping your situation a great deal, I would think.
That one extra yellow made a big difference. So we'll see what happens. Keep your fingers crossed for the players team.
I'll tell you what, fuel always comes into it here at Elkhart Lake, Paul.
Sunday night baseball tonight will take you to Fulton County Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, as San Francisco, the Giants, take on the Atlanta Braves. The Giants are in a tight National League West race. Giants led by the outspoken three-time National League MVP, Barry Bond. That's tonight right here on ESPN. All right, we should be ready to go green. A wonderfully tactical race, some good wheel-to-wheel racing on the course.
To give you an idea why Barry Green may be comfortable taking the gamble, Jacques Villeneuve pitted on lap 17 on his first run, but he also ran 2 pace laps. That was 19 laps. Now he pitted with 20 laps to go, so 3 of those 20 laps have now been under yellow. So from what we saw earlier, Jacques Villeneuve should just about have enough fuel to finish this race.
16 cars all on the leader lap. Jan Beekes, you're keeping an eye on him too.
That's right. We talked to Barry Green. We check with Derek Walker as far as Christian Fittipaldi's fuel circumstances. He says the way we've been going so far, the fuel mileage is perfect. We don't expect to have any problem. That was our last time you'll see Christian Fittipaldi down here in the Walker Racing pit.
Remember also, the first man of the leading group that we saw in the pit lane was Gilles de Ferran, who only went 16 laps. So the Mercedes engine does not seem to have the fuel efficiency that Barry Green has in that Ford engine that's in Jacques Villeneuve's Players Reynard.
Record number of yellows here thus far, 4, for a total thus far of 13 laps. Brian Herta will be receiving a black flag as well. Pit violation.
And once again, let me just tell you, don't take your eyes off Paul Tracy, because on these opening laps, he is superb. He is so brave on cool tires, and he has a smell of the lead of this race now. So Paul Tracy, just keep your eye on him.
Final couple of corners coming back to green as you look down from the Honda Helicam. Just over, it's Route 67 here in Wisconsin, just below the helicopter. Up the hill they come, they watch, there's the green. All right, here we go. Jacques Villeneuve leads the field down. Boisel second. Boy, take a look at the weaving and bobbing that we're seeing out of Vassar.
Tracy had to protect that position. Look at Fernandez goes down the inside of Scott Pruitt, but Tracy having to fend off the advances.
A lot of desperate men in this field. You ride with Andre Ribeiro right now. A few laps left and lots gets a position to come forward. Andre chasing Scott Pruitt. 2 Firestone tire shod race cars.
And Pruitt clearly in trouble. Slow down this straight. Here comes Tracy.
Tracy comes to the inside of Bosell. They are side by side there. Bosell off the right edge of the course. He's forced off. Tracy climbs the hill. Bosell losing time now as Teo Fabi comes up to the inside. They close on Vassar.
And you can just tell when Paul Tracy's around, that type of move is going to be tried. And Bosell went way too far and began to put himself off the racetrack. Now he blocks his team boss.
Yeah, but now do we have shades of last year at the front of the field? Jack taking the race away from Tracy.
Paul Tracy, just like Jacques Villeneuve, also stopped after 17 laps and 2 pace laps earlier. So we believe it may be a fuel battle, and they may have enough between Villeneuve and Paul Tracy. Jan Beekes?
We have seen 2 of the Pac West cars get together. Both drivers have made it down here to the paddock. Mauricio, you were the first guy to get in trouble. What happened?
Basically, I was passing Fernandez around the outside, and I had gearbox problem. I couldn't get in 4th, so I made turn 1 in 5th gear. That was too long. I got on the grass, and then from there on, I was just hanging to the car, and unfortunately, Danny didn't have anywhere to go. It's very sad for the team, but that's racing, I guess.
Yeah, there were obviously some very disappointed crew members, but thankfully you're okay, Mauricio.
Thank you.
Ribeiro finally makes the move on Scott Pruitt, comes around him. Villeneuve still the leader, Tracy still second. Everybody's still in contest.
And Pruitt was in 8th place. He was slow down that straight. And here's Rahal. Now tries to put a move on Raoul Bosell. Team orders. Oh, no. Bosell goes down the inside again.
A full gut steal as they jump on the brakes down in the station. That's the lap they're working. This was the lap last year. Look at him as Bosell comes off.
Rahal pushes Bosell off the racetrack. I asked, was there team orders? There's the answer. No team orders. Rahal punts Raoul Bosell off into the grass, through the gravel trap, into the grass again, and he's on his way. I suppose the boss can do whatever he wants.
That's an order of sorts, absolutely. I'm going to say it was on this lap of last year. Jacques Villeneuve got around Paul Tracy to take the lead, and after that was
Rahal up a position. He is now in 5th. But look at Ribeiro. What a superb afternoon Andre Ribeiro has had in Steve Horn's Tasman car. This is the Honda engine. In fact, this is the car that Scott Goodyear almost won the Indy 500 with. This is the actual chassis that Scott Goodyear drove.
Oh, and Alessandro Zampedri off the course into the tire barrier, but he doesn't see any damage. He wants to be pushed back and be kept going. Will they go full course yellow here? 36 laps complete. Let's go back to that race.
Saw earlier. Bosell is on the inside. Rahal under braking. Whoa, something unusual happened there. I don't think it was Rahal who pushed him off. Oh, well, maybe it was. Yeah, there is contact
I think he just suddenly realized that he was still alongside him when he tried to come out off and make his turn into the corner.
But Rahal went by him so fast, Bosell must have missed a gear shift. There's no other explanation for such a hiccup of power on the way up the hill to the left-hander.
Fifth. And so they're going to save fuel. They'll all make it to the finish, but it's going to be a run. IndyCar safety crews are now with Alessandro yellow, 5th of the day by 2 yellows, a record here at Road America. And joining us now, Danny Sullivan, who is pit side, gotten out of his uniform, refreshed, and Danny's been watching with us. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you, Paul. It's good to be here, but not as good as it would be if I was out there leading right now.
Yeah, 2 victories here would be nice for you, wouldn't it?
It would be very nice.
Now, we've been watching that situation between Raoul Boesel and his owner, Bobby Rahal, and you got a view of it. What'd you think?
Well, I agree with Derek. I think when Raoul came out of there, he missed a gear on the grass, and that's what put him off. But
here it is again, Raoul on the inside. Now, here's the hesitation, right?
Yes, but that's way before the braking area, way too soon. I think he had trouble with the gear. He probably was grabbing for something down there, got a wheel off on the grass on the outside, and then that was history.
So Raoul Boesel off the course, finally got back on. Bobby Rahal continued on, and we wait for them to get Alessandro Zampedri back on course and probably under power.
Hard contact with him?
Well, I actually did run into him. What happened is he was trying to pass Fernandez around the outside of turn 1, got out there, had some gear trouble, got a little bit on the marbles, went out in the grass, looked like he was going to hit the fence, came back in front of Parker and myself, and Parker just got by. He nearly hit the back of his car, and I thought, okay, I've got the left side, went up the left side, and he shot back in front of me, and we hit head on. Not going very fast. It was pretty superficial damage, a little body work, and one suspension, I think. We're yelling at him, but there was a fire going in the back of his car, and I didn't want him sitting in there, and I wanted to make sure he didn't know there was a fire going, so he got out, the fire went out, and everybody was okay. Cars aren't too badly damaged.
So 2 situations there. Let's go back to the other one, Rahal, Hogan. Let's talk with Hogan, Jan Beekes.
A lot of people have had a chance to comment. First, Danny Sullivan was watching very carefully the monitor, but so were you, Carl Hogan, both your team cars. What is your perspective? Have the drivers spoken to you about that incident?
Well, I think Bobby was right up alongside him. Bobby to get right up on him, and I don't know if they touched or not, but it was strictly a racing situation, and we'll just have to live with it.
Any apologies coming across the radio that you can relay to each driver?
No, we just have to go to work now and get back some of it. So now we got our work cut out for us.
Thanks, Carl.
Right.
Hey, Carl may well be right. Didn't look like anybody touched there. Danny Sullivan has left, and we appreciate his coming by as well. Full course yellow. The way they line up is we're ready to go green. There's the leader, Villeneuve, Paul Tracy. Second place, closes right up on him. Third place, Jimmy Vasser. Then Teo Fabi, then Bobby Rahal. Green flag awaits at the top of the hill. 37 laps complete.
The Canadian battle into turn 1 here. Never think Paul Tracy's too far behind to make an attempt.
Leading down the first hill, Adrian Fernandez battling with Scott Pruitt. Scott moved to the inside. Adrian came over there as well. That battle continues down the hill. It's a fight for 10th. Excuse me, for 7th.
The key to this weekend, Villeneuve has always believed, low downforce and be fast down this straight. He says it makes it very difficult for anybody to overtake you. And you can see how good Tracy is here under the braking zone, but he's just too far behind because of the speed of Villeneuve down this long straight.
Boy, what a great deal it would be if Paul Tracy could in fact outbrake him into the corner with all that terrible injury to his left foot. On board Ribeiro.
By far
chases Fabi.
And by far his best ever IndyCar race. Had great experience earlier following Rahal. We saw him fall off the road right on this particular juncture. Now he's in trouble from somebody behind him. That's Rahal again beginning to put the pressure on Ribeiro.
Through the carousel, Rahal closing in. Ribeiro's progress up through the field as he continues his pursuit of 4th place, Teo Fabi.
Fabi's car now being engineered by Lee Dykstra. He's the man responsible for this race setup. Oh, he locks up that right front. He's had trouble all day locking those fronts. Ribeiro takes advantage right up under his rear wing. Virtually impossible to pass here.
Yeah, but as they come now to the climbing pit straight, that's where the Honda power may pay off. We get a good comparison here. They come off the corner, climb the hill.
Jimmy Vasser just ahead. Fernandez behind, he's 7th. Good run for Fernandez and Rick Gallis's car. Look at that line of cars along this 200-mile-an-hour front straight.
About equal down the straightaway. In fact, Rahal may have closed a bit on Ribeiro. That can also be a product of how you came off that last corner, too. Not necessarily engine all by itself. There's the leader. Second place, Tracy, stretched out now. Down through the woods, heading for station 5. Everybody single file, but everybody looking.
And that's the difficulty that Paul Tracy, who's now going up the hill, will have trying to catch Jacques Villeneuve. Jacques just seems to be able to pull out 1 or 2 car lengths down these long straights.
With all the yellows, average speed of the race, 102.6 miles an hour. Not anywhere near Michael Andretti's race record of 126.2.
We monitor some team radios, and the Newman Haas team have just told Paul Tracy to go +2 on the fuel mixture. In other words, add 2% more to fuel. And when you add fuel to these engines, they begin to make more power and go faster.
Jan Beekes, do you have an update?
I can give you an update as far as Jimmy Vasser is concerned. We checked in with Tom Anderson, who of course is the team manager for Ganassi Racing, and he said, yes, we were one of the early guys to come in. Fuel was originally a concern, but this additional yellow has also given us hope, or actually they're certain that they are going to make it to the end. And like Paul Tracy, they're hoping to feed that Ford engine a bit more fuel.
40 miles to go for Jack Villeneuve, then Tracy, then this car, Jimmy Vasser.
Jimmy Vasser just passing the position where he had a monster 200-mile-an-hour crash here just 3 weeks ago, and it never even phased him.
Single file at the moment, but it should be a sprint to the finish at Road America. No changes since we left you here at Road America. It's still lined up nose to tail. And plenty of opportunity yet to pass. 41 laps complete, 9 to go. But 4 miles a lap. Ford Motor Company out in front. But look at Honda, 5th place. Andre Ribeiro giving that car a great ride. Parker Johnstone, the other Honda here, was just quick off and on, fell through the field, but has remained on the leader lap, running in 14th place. There's Ribeiro as he continues his battle for 4th place with Teo Fabi. Bobby Rahal lined up just behind him, then Adrian Fernandez.
And Andre Ribeiro is not hanging on here. He is challenging here. He has the speed in that Reynard with the Honda engine to possibly take that position from Teo Fabi.
Raul Boisel, who was doing so good so early, is pitted. And so no longer any kind of factor at the front of the field, will most likely drop off the leader lap.
Fabi, who still commutes from Italy, still lives back in Italy, running the family talcum powder business. Team manager is Tony Brunetti. He might have been Tony Brunelli last week, but he's Brunetti this week.
Stromberger, his first IndyCar race, off and on. Came up from Austria.
And the first Austrian to race an IndyCar since who? Jochen Rindt. The last Austrian to race an IndyCar, believe it or not, with the posthumous world champion, Jochen Rindt.
Raul Boisel steps out of his car. I want to point out, I actually knew that answer, didn't I? I mean, that wasn't a setup.
You knew because I told you.
No, you asked me last night and I knew that.
Look at Tracy dropping back here into the clutches of Jimmy Vasser.
Tracy, the interval from Jack Villeneuve to Tracy stretches out, was 2.5 seconds, but the interval between Tracy and Vasser is closing in. Vasser's very definitely stalking second place Tracy.
So Villeneuve in control and Tracy in pain. Now trying to hold off Jimmy Vasser. He had a special pair of driving boots made. Paul Tracy did. There's a carbon fiber sole and outer carbon fiber section on Paul Tracy's racing boots. In fact, he has handmade racing boots all the time. Alpine stars, who are more famous for motocross boots, actually hand make Paul Tracy's racing boots for him.
But Jimmy Vasser now just a half a second back, trying to close. Tracy gets away from him a little bit there going into the carousel. But boy, Vasser's been so strong the past several races.
He didn't have a good qualifying run, qualified a lowly 14th. But on race day is when Jimmy Vasser just seems to come good. He understands track position. And if you go by Portland, he's had a second, a first, and running in a very strong 3rd place here. So Chip Ganassi definitely getting good returns from his driver here, Jimmy Vasser.
Eric, at the start of the run, you were talking about how Firestone was faring against Goodyear. Right now, Firestone on Ribeiro runs 5th, and Pruitt is running 8th. How do you think that figures into the overall?
I think I expected a little bit more from Scott Pruitt. I think he's grappling with some handling problems because we saw Ribeiro passing quite easily earlier. But there's no doubt Firestone are mounting a stiff challenge here. However, stiff challenges are one thing. You've got to get poles and race wins, though, before you can really see a benefit from all the test miles and all the huge financial investment you make in making the decision to go IndyCar racing.
Fernandez, Pruitt, Christian Fittipaldi, 7th, 8th, 9th. DeFerrin, who had led the race, now sits in 10th. He should be back just behind this battle as well. Watch as they come down the hill. Some interval back to him, though. Pruitt tries it, can't get it done. Let's go to Jan Beekes with Raul Boisel.
Raul has made his way out of the race car. What put you out?
Well, I have probably the the gearbox, we have this problem with selection early on, so that's why we lost some position when the green came, and so finally, gave up.
Now, is that what happened between you and Bobby? Did you miss a gear? And how come all of a sudden he seemed to move over and push you off the track?
Yes, we was fighting for position. I tried to save my place, and then when the gear missed, I tried to stay beside him, and I guess was placed just for one there.
Might have a chat with him when he comes in, huh?
Yeah, maybe.
Thanks, Raul.
So they still run nose to tail. Jacques Villeneuve is the leader by 3 seconds. And as we go to the closing laps, we'll keep track of it for you, and we'll come back for the checkered flag. Back at Road America, Andre Ribeiro. He climbs the hill, running in 5th place. And one car off its tail, Bobby. He was running in 4th. Past goes Ribeiro, past goes Ray Hall. He's losing positions as he tries to get it back under control.
And it looked like it was all by himself. That was where we saw Bozell go off earlier. So there goes his 4th place and hands it to Andre Ribeiro, who continues to move up this leaderboard here.
And in fact, falls all the way out of the top 10, but DeFerrin is into the barriers now. Now what will they do? 5 laps to go. Presumption is they will leave him here. They won't go full course yellow, or will they?
Well, now it doesn't make any difference how much fuel Gilles DeFerrin has, because he throws it all away and buries himself into those new design of tire barriers at the end. I think that's Canada Corner. Look at the gravel trap he goes through, and he forces another full course yellow, which will tighten the field up. It'll save this man on potential fuel problems, and it allows Paul Tracy to get right up under his rear wing.
Gilles DeFerrin's, if he doesn't get out and get it started, 6th DNF of the year. Theoretically, he could get it out and get it going. Gary Gerald?
Kind of mixed reaction here in the pits of Jacques Villeneuve. Team Green watching the monitors. They're aware, of course, that now we're going full course yellow. They had stretched the margin to just over 3 seconds, and as we suspected, one of the reasons was because he too, like Tracy, was able to go close to 100% full rich on the fuel. So he was generating a lot of horsepower, a lot of speed, but now that 3 seconds is going to be gone underneath the yellow. With time running out, it opens the door for Paul Tracy.
And it has taken some time to get these cars out of the gravel pits. They'll be burning up laps. We could probably come back with like 3 laps, 12 miles to the checkered flag, with Paul Tracy and Jimmy Vasser sitting right on top of the 27 car of Jacques Villeneuve.
There's Villeneuve, goes by the safety truck. And that is Paul Tracy right in his wheel tracks. Now he knows, Tracy knows at this stage that he doesn't have the speed to go head-to-head with Villeneuve. The only way he can maybe snatch a victory from Jacques Villeneuve is a daring move under braking. So he knows, and you can bet, he will be stuck right up under the rear wing of Jacques Villeneuve when we go back to green.
And he has double problems. He's got that bad foot. He's got the problem with the mirror. He can't see what's on his right side. I wonder if this is a relief for Tracy, being able to run slow for a while here, or if it's a time when the pain kind of surges back to him.
It's an opportunity. That's what it is.
And an opportunity that he will very well take, and has taken before, and is spectacular when he does. We're going to take another break. We'll come back when they go to green. Well, they're there with Gilles DeFerrin trying to stretch out the tow ropes and get them hooked up. Of course, the problem is you can't back too far to that sand trap. You get the tow vehicle stuck as well. We're under the full course caution. Everybody's closed up at the field. Going to make for a great final couple of laps here. Probably 3, maybe even only 2 laps to the finish. We'll see how fast they get that car out. We're on the 46th lap now, under the 6th full course caution of the day, doubling the record number of cautions we've had here at Road America. So it's been an exceedingly slow day, and dragging the average down to 106.2 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour behind Michael Andretti's race record. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Carl, is there anything that you can do, any strategy you can play here with only a few laps remaining to go for the win?
Not really. It's been kind of a strange race. We're kind of hanging on there. And if we get a break, I don't know, maybe Paul will try and get him on the restarts, but it's hard to say.
So you don't think you have the speed once they get the momentum going to challenge Jacques Villeneuve?
Well, it's hard to pass on this course, you know, to get by him if you got 2 cars both running quick. And Villeneuve's been running quick all day, so it'll be difficult, but you never know.
One of his cars is out, but the other is still very strong. Paul?
You're right on board with that car now. Paul Tracy As Derek suggested, what he has is an opportunity. He has a chance.
And this is his favorite racetrack. He's been so fast here in the past. We watched him yesterday trying to qualify in the front row of the grid. He went off the racetrack 3 times, grappling with a vibrating brake pedal. He got that sorted this morning. And then, of course, those stitches popped out of that damaged foot just this morning. Had new stitches inserted. Was in considerable pain. And look at the job he does today.
Now, it's going to be close as whether we get 2 laps or 3 laps under green flag. If they can get him way clear quickly here, the assumption is there's enough distance that they might be able to give him 3 laps of green flag, but maybe only 2. Gary Gerald?
Well, Paul, not only is this opportunity a great one for Tracy and the guys up front, it's a great opportunity for some of the guys back in the pack. When you consider the travails, as we've seen of Scott Pruitt today and Christian Fittipaldi, they're now running 7th and 8th respectively. That all ties them into the line. And if they can put together a couple of great laps, make a couple of moves, they might gain a couple of positions that could move them closer to the podium and certainly a much richer payday.
No question about that. You see that Carlos Guerrero is waving Scott Goodyear and Christian Fittipaldi by. Boy, they were real careful to wait until they got right in front of race control before they did that. Carlos waved, Scott acknowledged, so did Christian, because you get caught passing without that wave by, it could be a very big problem.
Carlos Guerrero has a good head on his shoulders because we saw him earlier move out of the way to let those leading cars go by. So he understands what's going on here, and he's aware of his surroundings, which gives all these other drivers around a lot of confidence when they come up to be on the same piece of track as Guerrero.
Our Honda helicopter has had to come down a little bit early. We want to thank them for some great shots, some wonderful speed shots on this course. The aerials overhead has helped make our day here at Road America as this great track celebrates its 40th anniversary. There's been some great racing programs. Got a lot of good old pictures. Cliff Tuffney, the original designer of the track and the guy who ran it for such a long time.
You get some good close-up pictures of the front of Paul Tracy's car. That front wing is not a Lola design. That is their own design. They have their own aerodynamicist, Martin Hanford, who works specifically with Newman Haas, and he came up with this front wing design that you see here on Paul Tracy's car. Michael Andretti also has it. It makes it 1% better on pitch sensitivity, and it also gives this car more downforce.
Villeneuve will restart from first position, then Tracy, then Vassar. Andre Ribeiro, Jan Bikas, is sitting in 4th right now.
That's right, and I think he's a guy, Paul, that you might want to watch on the restart. Remember, he's got the Honda power plant, and we have heard that that engine revs higher than any other engine here, well over 14,000 RPM, and most of the drivers that you talk to concede that that may be the most powerful power plant out there at the moment. Of course, where that will show will be on a restart and in qualifying. And now that they've had so many laps of caution, they don't have to worry about fuel. They can turn it up, they can spin it as high as they want. Look out for Andre Ribeiro. By the way, first time ever here. He didn't run here in the Indy Lights. He has obviously acquitted himself very, very well on this racetrack.
There's DeFerrin's car in the pits. He's going to climb out. He is done. We're going to get him in this order. The green flag, next lap white, then the checker. Just 2 laps of racing. 8 miles. There's the real question mark. Known for brave moves. Paul Newman, one of his owners, looks on. There's the green team as they are ready to go back green as soon as they come off the backside of the course. Johnny Rutherford in the PPG Corvette pace car, trying to get as much distance as he can on the field. And then it rolls over to the control of Jack Villeneuve, the 27 car, the leader of the race. He can set his pace any way he wants, climbing that hill.
And Tracy knows what he's going to try and do. But make no mistake about it, Villeneuve knows what Paul Tracy will try and do. And don't forget Vassar. Look at the line of cars here. Rahal has been through this scenario so many times. Anything could happen with 3 laps to go.
And as Jan suggested, there sits Ribeiro. Who knows what his power plant can do for him, or his skill.
Look how slow Villeneuve takes him through Canada corner.
Interesting. You notice they're displaying a course condition flag there at Canada corner. It's apparently very slick. And look at Villeneuve. He picks the pace up plenty early. Lagged off the car, but Tracy is right there. They both pulled away from Vassar. Not green yet. They're climbing the hill.
Oh, this is what we anticipated from Tracy.
There's the green.
You can.
Now keep an eye on him. Tracy
it close enough. Oh, he kicks the back out. Turn 5 is where he's made his brave moves. Oh, he's too far behind.
Down now through the woods, heading for Station 5. Key braking area, key passing area, but Tracy's not close enough.
He remembers what Carl Haas told him earlier. Think championship points. Most of your championship contenders are out. Oh, he's right behind them.
But Tracy has matured so much this year. Been such a bright driver.
So many times he's fell off the road under pressure. Not this year. His displays in so many of the races, and particularly important when he had a mechanical failure running right at the front. 150 miles an hour off this corner. 180 through the kink.
Down to Canada corner, remember, course condition flag says it's slick down there. That's where DeFerrin was off. Tracy closes just a bit.
Villeneuve is very good under pressure. Very, very good. The more pressure you put on him, he does not make many mistakes.
Nothing changes at the front of the order. They'll see the white flag this time. 4 miles to go. Villeneuve, then Tracy. There's Vassar, Andre Ribeiro, Bobby Rahal, Fernandez, Pruitt, Fittipaldi. All answer the white flag. Christian Fittipaldi.
All in a line here. Scott Pruitt still hangs on to the back of Adrian Fernandez. And there's Christian Fittipaldi, who should have been right up with these leaders, except he lost track position with that fuel stop. And look at Johansson. Johansson running. He is running in 10th. He's in the top 10.
Parker Johnstone, who's off and on, back on, trying to make up, still at the tail end of the leader lap, running 13.
Emerson still running. You saw a quick glance of him running 15. Had that wheel problem earlier. But here's the battle. Can Jack Villeneuve hold off Paul Tracy?
He does seem to be somewhat quicker, though Tracy's been closing under braking. On the final lap, Tracy's trying to stick with him. Get under braking, closes just a bit, but Jack's faster off the corner.
Oh, Jacques kicks up the dust. He has the right side wheels over the curbing.
Looked down for a second, too, as he did that. Now back to that more traditional kind of head slightly cocked to the right as he moves into the kink.
Fastest part of the racetrack. Down between the trees.
Through Thunder Valley, Canada corner now.
Oh, Ribeiro's making a challenge on Vassar. He gets closer.
Ribeiro, Rahal, they close. Coming to the final corner. Unchallenged now. Jack Villeneuve makes that final turn. Tracy drives her deep, but he protects second place as Jack Villeneuve climbs the hill, and he will take the checkered flag at the Texaco Haviland 200, the 4th win of his career, followed by a very heads-up Paul Tracy. Well, there's the celebration down in Newman Haas. They're real pleased with that second place. Nothing changes as they come to the top of the hill. It's Villeneuve, Tracy, Vassar, Ribeiro, Rahal, Fernandez, Scott Pruitt, Christian Fittipaldi 8th, then Teo Fabi and Stefan Johansson rounds out the top 10. So where they won a year ago, they've done it again as Barry Green gets on the radio and congratulates his young champion. We come back, we'll be talking with him. We'll also have some highlights from the entire race weekend here at Road America. At Road America, the 27 car, Jack Villeneuve, now with back-to-back victories here where he scored his first win. He's now scored his most recent win. He, Paul Tracy right behind him, and Jimmy Vassar, first, second, and third, make the final turn that takes them into the winner's circle area. Boy, what a happy group they are going to be as the Team Green, Barry Green, Kim, the rest of the group, await the arrival now of Jack Villeneuve, who's slow for the first time today, coming around that final corner.
This is very much a team victory because they measured the fuel consumption and the downforce this car would carry right from Friday morning. So everybody in this team that makes the engineering and management decisions can be very proud of the effort they put in. And of course, they have Jacques in the cockpit to bring it home.
He scores the win and pulls a full race, 21 points ahead of his closest competitor in the points fight, Robbie Gordon. His third win of the season, Gary Gerald.
Yes, it is. We just got ourselves trapped on the wrong side of the car as he came springing out. We're working our way through some traffic as he works on the helmet, and we'll get over here and get a chance to get a word with this young man. He got his first victory here a year ago, and there were some concerns early today, but it proved not to be a factor. And Jacques Villeneuve now with a helmet off. We'll get him turned around here. Jack, congratulations. Now, we talked about concern early. I know this morning was not easy for you because there was a sensor in the shifting mechanism that was giving you all kinds of difficulty. How apprehensive were you when this race started that that problem might still exist?
Well, I didn't really want to think about it because you don't want to think about problems. But the biggest thing was we had done only 2 laps, so we weren't really sure with the race setup. And we just opted for what we had on. We weren't sure if it was good, and it proved it was good.
It got hot. The track got a little more slippery, and you had a very low downforce setup. Did you slip and slide a bit?
Yeah, mostly with the full tanks. You know, my player's Reinhardt was really strong. Mostly after a few laps when the fuel went down a little bit, the car was really, really strong. And everybody in Team Green did a great job in Portland and here it went well.
And the young guy just gets better and better. Win number 3, and it keeps you right on top of the points. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jan?
Another guy with a great performance today, of course, Paul Tracy. Paul, first of all, how do you feel? How's that foot?
My foot's really sore. It's really swelled up during the race, and I was having a lot of trouble with it, but you know, the Kmart Budweiser car ran great. We made a mistake. I couldn't get it out of the pits, so I was having a really hard time, and you know, we made our positions back on the track. That's what counts. And when it came down to the shootout, Jacques had a little more than we had, but this really feels like a win for the team because we had such a struggle all weekend.
It's amazing you could finish so high with that injury, but where was he quicker than you? Where can you maybe pick up speed next time we see you 2 guys battling?
Well, it just seemed like he had a better low downforce setup. He was a little quicker down the straight, and I could stay close in the turns, but once we got out on the open straightaway, he just pulled away a little bit. So, you know, I'm happy with second place. I think the crew is pumped up, and it's a good finish for the Kmart Budweiser team.
Paul Tracy, some people feel he goes even faster when he's hurt. Paul?
I sure don't like it.
Well, here is the unofficial results. A couple of pieces of really great information in here. Parker Johnstone has scored his first career point, and that's Andre Ribeiro's best career finish. So there's the 12 positions that pay points toward the PPG Cup at the end of the season. And Jacques Villeneuve has taken the win in the Texaco Haviland 200. We'll take it all the way through the field for you. Interesting day, Derek Daly. A lot of tactics and way too many yellows. So there's your full field of standings. Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti, the very first ones out in their contact on the second lap. Now let's go to Jan Beekes.
The guy who came in third today, he's getting to be a regular here on the podium. Jimmy Vasser, congratulations. You had a pretty wild run.
Well, it was consistent and smooth, and you know, I saw a lot of wild goings on in front of me, and you know, we're just happy to finish for Target and STP, good sponsors, and we should have had some more of these earlier in the year. We didn't, but now it's good to have them now.
What's the big change all of a sudden every time up in the top 3?
Well, there's no big change. Like I said before, you know, the team's a great team. We're working hard. Target Chip Ganassi team's been there all year long. We had some failures that weren't our fault early in the year that we should have been on the podium, and now they're coming. So you know, hopefully we can keep them coming. We can move up in the points.
Jimmy Vasser, obviously his confidence is brimming. Paul?
Congratulations to Jimmy Vasser. Now Gary Gerald has Andre Ribeiro, his best career finish with a 4th.
His previous best was an 11th at Nazareth. Here you are now in the top 5, Andre. And the thing that's so impressive, you'd never seen this racetrack until this weekend. You've got to be amazed and delighted, I would think.
Well, when I came to this place for the first time, I thought, wow, this is a real racetrack. So I think we got adapted very quick. The car was very good. It was a shame that on practice and qualified we have some problems, but here we are. Honda, Firestone, Reynolds, this is a good package.
Yeah, we're seeing it step up almost every time. Now, Firestone, it was a disappointment at Portland. Did they do anything different that's really brought you back so impressively this weekend?
Well, Firestone is doing such a good job. After what did happen in Portland, they moved very fast. They had new tires ready for us here, and the tires were very good. So I'm very pleased. Firestone did a good job.
Well, and you did a good job as well. Congratulations on your best ever finish.
Thank you.
All right, Andre Ribeiro.
Originally studied law, is making a lot more money as an IndyCar driver. Well, there's the way the points are, with Jacques Villeneuve once again moving to a full race advantage over his second-place competitor, Robbie Gordon, then Ray Hall, Scott Pruitt, Paul Tracy, and Michael Andretti. Today was very costly for both Michael Andretti and for Al Unser Jr. by not scoring a point. They remained right where they were, and now they're losing a grip on the edge of that fight for the PPG Cup. And as Derek said at the start of the show, this is a critical race in the season. Manufacturer's points, well, Ford Cosworth pulling a little bit away from Mercedes-Benz, but Honda jumped up big time with that finish by Ribeiro. Still some guys to talk to, highlights to look at. Let's go first to Gary Gerould.
And Scott Pruitt with a 7th-place finish today, and you were talking about how competitive, how tough, how aggressive everybody is driving out there. And one of those aggressive moves, some contact left debris, you ended up being a victim when you cut down a rear tire early. That had to be very costly.
Yeah, it was. You know, everybody on the Firestone Patrick's team's been doing a great job. We came out of the box here, we're running strong. We were on the provisional pole on Friday, slipped back on Saturday. Had a good strong run going in the race, and unfortunately picked up some debris, cut a rear tire, and fell back to 27th, and it was just chasing our way back all day long.
Well, we congratulate you on a top 10 finish and on to Toronto.
Thank you.
All right, let's go now. We met Christian Fittipaldi early in the show. He's with Jan.
Well, he's in a little different frame of mind now, Gary. He's getting a drink of water, but obviously a bit disappointed. Was it the pit strategy, really? You're running third, and all of a sudden way back in the order.
I don't know. I honestly don't know what happened. I just didn't understand. Everyone went to the pits on that second or third yellow, and I almost went in without even having received any message from the radio, but I just didn't go in because I thought that there was a problem inside my pits, because no one called me on the radio, and the radio was working perfectly. And then as soon as I went by, they thought that they would make more places if I stayed out than if I came in at that time. Unfortunately, I think it was wrong today, and again we missed a very good chance of for sure winning the race, because the car was perfect. We were quickest this morning, and the car was running absolutely marvelous in the race.
Very frustrated, Christian Fittipaldi. Paul?
Yeah, but Christian, your day is coming. Here's the way that the Nation Cup now stands, with Canada still in pursuit, Brazil very close. Now don't forget, right after our coverage here, we're going to have Speed Shop. Transactional television. Jack Arute will host, and we're going to be talking with some of the great guys from IndyCar, and also have an opportunity to pick up plenty of souvenirs from IndyCar. First shot at it, I think you will very definitely enjoy it. Congratulations here to Jacques Villeneuve. Back-to-back victories at Road America. Remember that 1 week from today, the IndyCars will head to Toronto, exhibition place, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And that coverage will come on ABC. So it's been a great day here. It gives us a good opportunity, too, though, to go back and look at some of the highlights of this wonderful weekend on Road America's 40th anniversary. During the qualifying, big hand-grenaded engine for Christian Fittipaldi. Out quick, but okay, made it into the race, obviously. You just talked to him. Oh, Paul Tracy, not once, 3 different times in the qualifying, off course. Jacques Villeneuve very quick. Michael Andretti in qualifying off. Carlos Guerrero with a fire that really affected his weekend. Robbie Gordon, spectacular moment. Then we got underway today. And immediately, lap number 2. Bang! Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr. out. Mauricio Gugelmin, Danny Sullivan, teammates out. Teammates Bozell, Rahal get together, stay in. And Jacques Villeneuve takes his 4th IndyCar victory. So congratulations to Jack. I'm Paul Page for Derek Daly, Jan Vikas, and Gary Gerould. So long from Road America.